Шановні колеги,
Esteemed colleagues, Colonel Andriy, Lysenko, Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, spokesperson on ATO-related issues. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. The information on events that took place in the ATO zone during the last 24 hours in Lugansk direction. The military activity of the enemy started at dawn, when the enemy started using mortars in Katerinivka of Popasnyansky district. Then during the day, the military shellings of the enemy at the ATO forces in this area lasted with intervals till midnight. During that time, the occupants were massively shelling from mortars. According to the general headquarters, yesterday in Popasnyansky district, the enemy launched more than 120 mines at Ukrainian positions. As a result of the shellings at Popasna, the building of the pump unit and also water pumping stations were damaged. The enemy continued to actively use heavy weaponry in Novodarsky district. Yesterday, almost 100 mortar mines were shelled in Krimske at our positions in the morning and before the sunset. One mortar shelling at the ATO forces took place in Novotashkivske. Also yesterday morning, in the result of military shelling, one citizen of Zolote was wounded. In Stanichny Lugansky district, it was almost quiet during the 24 hours. There was a ceasefire violation only in the morning when the bands were organized the provocation shelling at our positions in Malinovo to the north from the regional center. At the same time, yesterday late at night, the occupant shelled at our rear area. Lysychansk, the enemy was shelling from Getsin B gun at the outskirts of Lysychansk. During the 24 hours in Lugansk direction, there were 27 shellings at the positions of ATO forces, 18 of them from heavy weaponry. Donetsk direction, almost immediately after midnight, the enemy started firing from armored equipment in Lugansk, which is at Svetlodarsky Arch. Then during the day, the enemy was actively using large caliber machine guns, shelling from mortars in direction of Ukrainian defenders in Novolugansk. The shellings were happening from the southern and southeastern directions. Then the bands were violating the ceasefires Svetlodarska Arch after 10 p.m. The main activity was the mostly active the bands were to the north in Zaitsev and Mayorsk, where they were provoking our military, and after the sunset launched 5 mines in direction of Zaitsev. Also, the enemy violated the ceasefire to the south of the perimeter. In Novgorodska, we registered the shelling of a sniper, and in Verkhnya-Toretska, the militants launched more than 15 mortar mines. The shellings by the enemy of Avdiivka lasted from dawn till late in the evening. The enemy was not using howitzers, but was shelling at our positions from tanks and mortars. They were hitting the city houses. 9 houses were damaged, private and multi-storied. The kindergarten, 1 restaurant, 2 private cars. One of the buildings is completely ruined. There are few people left in this house because the civilians leave eastern Avdiivka, which is close to the zone of military actions. And the result of the shelling, the facade of the school was damaged. Fortunately, no one of peaceful citizens suffered. The policemen and the servicemen what the services patrolled the city, helped people, and registered the crimes of the occupants. More than 200 mines and more than 80 tank shells that were launched by the enemy in the direction of Avdiivka during last 24 hours. Also in Kamenka, the military sniper was active near Donetsk airfield. There were military actions of low intensity there, and also in the neighboring with the airport Nevelsky, the Russian occupational forces were using light armaments. During the last 24 hours in the next direction, there were 30 shellings registered, 13 of them from heavy weaponry. Mariupolsky direction. In Mariinsky district in the morning, one enemy's military provocation was registered. In the daytime, the forces of the ATO were shelled dead by the sniper of the enemy. After the sunset, the militants launched 5 mines in the direction of Krasnogorivka. Further to the south, the militants violated ceasefire in Starognativka, where 3 times during the day they were implementing military provocations.
Also, we analyzed the registered the day before enemy shellings in Mariinsky region in Krasnogorivka during a shelling of illegal band formation. 70-year-old woman was wounded and the roof in one residential housing was damaged. Also, the rails near Krasnogorivka station were damaged. But there is no movement in this railway. In Mariinka, the electricity is turned off, and at least 5 buildings are damaged. Also, the fire was extinguished here. The kindergarten also was damaged, but it does not operate now. The major combat activities around Mariupol is in the earlier days were between Chermalik and Shirokina. Here, the heavy weaponry like mortars, artillery, and tanks were used almost during 24 hours all day round, especially unquiet. The situation was in the extreme south in Shirokina, where within 3.5 hours the enemies launched more than 100 of charges from heavy weaponry. During the last 24 hours, there were 59 shellings near Mariupol and 12 of them from heavy weaponry. During the last 24 hours, in result of combat activities, 1 Ukrainian serviceman was killed and 22 were wounded. We express our sympathy to the family and friends of the killed soldier. The police forces had carried out a search in Kramatorsk. The owner is suspected in collaboration with the legal band formations. The servicemen from 2nd Galicia Brigade of the National Guards held trainings in the armored vehicle military exercises. The units of the operational command of troops the West participated in tank military exercises. In Rivne military training field, they trained to open fire from moving tanks. The targets also moved, which created the conditions close to real combat conditions. Around Rivne, the technical military training of air defense units is continued. The pilots from transportation aviation and special paratroopers forces near Vinnytsia had special training flights where the pilots were trained in piloting and navigation, while 60 special paratroopers from special forces jumped with parachutes from 500 meters. They landed from 2 and 26 aircraft simultaneously. Near Lviv, the National Guards Academy of future officers were trained in the International Center of Peacekeeping and Security Operations. Kinologists with their dogs had training in disclosure and catching of subversive agents in the vicinity of nuclear power plants. First, the dogs had to reveal personal things, personal belongings of a subversive agent, and then to discover this agent around the nuclear power plant. This was done successfully by dogs. Thank you for your attention. Since there are no questions,